Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Lone Tree City Council study session. It's November 17th, 2020. As has been the case, our meeting access will be conducted virtually, and it's held electronically in accordance with Council adopted policy number 20-01. Members of the public can access this meeting via electronic participation. Since the City Council does not vote during our study sessions, we will not have public comment during our study session, but we will have it this evening at our 7 p.m. City Council meeting. We have a full agenda, as been the case during our virtual meetings, and I'm going to start off this afternoon welcoming one of our favorites back to the fold, our former Mayor Pro Tem Susan Squire, who has gone on and, well, has continued to give back to Douglas County in a host of ways. And currently she's going to be speaking to us today about the Douglas County Community Foundation and Colorado Gives Day specifically. So with that, I will be reading our proclamation on Colorado Gives Day at our council meeting later this afternoon, but we are fortunate to have Susan with us to discuss Colorado Gives Day. So Susan, welcome. Welcome to your first electronic meeting with us.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Mayor Millay and council members. It's good to see you all. And so if the team can put up the slide number 1, I'd appreciate it. So thank you for making time on your agenda for a special word about the 2020 Colorado Gives Day on December the 8th this year. 2020 has changed so many things for all of us, but what hasn't changed is the importance of each of us helping others. 2020 has proven that need knows no borders. Douglas County residents became acutely aware of that there are needs in Douglas County this year, and they stepped up by giving generously to our local nonprofits that serve our neighbors. And of course, the efforts that the City of Lone Tree put forth on a more local level are prime examples of people's passion for helping one another. So research shows that the brain behaves differently during an act of generosity. When people give a gift, there is a feeling of connection. And when gifts are received, people have even greater strength to overcome their challenges and know they're not alone. So if possible, I'd like to share this video that the Community Foundation produced earlier this year at the launch of our COVID Recovery Fund. Is it ready?
In the counties that we serve, there's about 48,000 families that are struggling to put food on the table.
Every year we answer about 1,500 calls to that line, and about 2/3 of those are Douglas County residents.
We get over 600 calls on average a month.
We send out about 65,000 pounds of food every month.
It's people helping people, it's neighbor helping neighbor.
Don't think about it, just do it. I think, you know, there's such a collaborative effort in the work that all nonprofits do, but especially here at the Crisis Center.
It's just really neat to know that Douglas County is a special place and we're all taking care of one another.
They're your neighbors. And Douglas County gets overlooked a lot of times in charitable giving, and people just don't realize how many folks are actually struggling.
I am so grateful to get to do what I do for Secor Cares. It is the community that I live in. I know that we are truly making a difference in the lives of the people that we serve.
It's Douglas County helping Douglas County, and it's very uplifting.
Thank you. So the Douglas County nonprofits have always shared the challenges of raising awareness of the needs here at home. Not only do larger funds invest little in Douglas County because of our high wealth ranking, but also residents donate generously outside of Douglas County. But 2020 has really helped open people's eyes and pocketbooks. The Community Foundation is proud to serve again this year as the regional champion to support our local nonprofits on Colorado Gives Day. And we're very grateful for your support in helping us get the word out. about Gives Day because it is working. If you just look at this slide and the numbers, over the last several years, the amount of dollars given by Douglas County residents to Douglas County nonprofits has increased. Colorado Gives Day last year, Douglas County nonprofits received nearly $3.3 million through Colorado Gives. And that was a 23% increase in donations from the previous year. So that's an increase from 2018 to 2019. So it means our messaging is really working. In fact, 47% of Douglas County residents donated to Douglas County organizations on Colorado Gives Day last year. That's a phenomenal response, I think. The generosity also enabled the Douglas County Community Foundation, especially with our COVID-19 Recovery Fund, to be able to grant out to applying nonprofits over $82,000 in community grants in the last 12 months. We have the next slide. So this slide represents a wide variety of Douglas County nonprofits that are represented through the Douglas County Community Foundation on Gives Day. We are keenly aware of the struggles that they are experiencing, from how they do their business to how they serve their communities, how they've had, so many have had to pivot, especially with their fundraising efforts this year, even some having to cancel. And I know, especially with the nonprofits that are in the city of Lone Tree, that you're keenly aware of those challenges. The struggle makes giving on Colorado Gives Day even more important this year. Plus, participating on that day helps to give the nonprofits access to additional incentive funds that are provided by First Bank. So it really helps to make a bigger impact with your donation to the nonprofits on that day. Next slide. So everyone can make a difference, and together we can make an even larger impact. So you can help out your favorite nonprofits by donating this year, and you can even start scheduling on November 1. Here is a QR code that you can use, and you'll be seeing this QR code in a lot of our social media. Be sure to watch for the annual Douglas County Giving Guide, which will be in the Lone Tree Voice on Thursday, December 3rd. And it will highlight each of the nonprofits that are taking part in Douglas County Gives Day. And, you know, it's a great tool to have a conversation with those in your home about how you might like to, as a family unit, help others in your local community. Last slide. So your support means so much to so many. Here are some ways that you can step forward. We know that you're going to pass a resolution tonight, which we really appreciate. And, or is it a resolution or proclamation? I forgot.
Proclamation. Proclamation.
And if you could share a copy of that with someone on our board, that would be really helpful for our records. And then we ask again for your support on all social media channels. I know Denise has been very instrumental in helping facilitate that. And I think you know very well all those important tools to really communicate with our residents. You did so effectively with your Lone Tree feeds. And then our COO, Carrie Buchan, will be forwarding that press release and then all the social media kit and talking points anytime. Don't know if Denise has received it yet, but she should be shortly. So these efforts together have clearly been making a difference, and we just can't thank you enough for helping to inspire others to give where you live. So that's all I really have for you today. Are there any questions?
Well, first, I think we want to say thank you, Susan, for your stalwart support of your local community here in Lone Tree, but in Douglas County as a whole. I think, you know, the legacy of your personal contributions is a standard I think very few would meet. So thank you for your great work. I know we are all familiar with Colorado Gives Day, and if we didn't know it before, we know it through you. But I do want to give council an opportunity to ask any questions that they may have. So with our format as such, I'm just going to go down the list. So Jay, any I know you want to say thanks, but any questions for Susan?
Sure. Yeah, no questions really, but thanks. And also just to make a point, there's so many great organizations throughout the country and throughout the state, but I think it's really important to give in your own backyard where you can really see the impact. And even if you don't have the ability to give financially, obviously giving of your time is a little harder in the COVID world.
Right.
But there's so many great organizations that you just pointed out on that slide. Help and Hope Center, Tall Tales Ranch, who've been great partners and are always looking for creative ways for people to get involved and to help. So a little bit goes a long way, and so I will certainly be supporting everyone on Colorado Gives Day. So thanks again.
Thank you, Jay.
Wynn, do you have any comments or thoughts?
Absolutely. Susan, thank you for inspiring the Give Where You Live theme. That's personally realigned my giving every year, and I've been glad to see that on the Colorado Giving Day site, they do allow you to search by region now, and I don't know if that was always the case, but since you brought that to our attention, I've been using that religiously. So I not only appreciate you being here tonight, but I appreciate your message and having the reminder when it's time to give every year. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And you're right, because the Community Foundation steps up and we represent our Douglas County Gives team, we act as the regional champion for Douglas County. And so that's why you see that search capability for just nonprofits in Douglas County. Yeah.
So Kathy, any thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Jackie and Susan. It's so lovely to see you. I miss sitting next to you every week on council, and I do also want to put in just my deep gratitude for the work that you're doing there. I know that I'm running a business now here in the Lone Tree area, and we brought folks down to work at the Help and Hope Center last year. We're disappointed we can't do that kind of work again this year, but we'll be doing some follow up with all of our team who are based all across Denver and Colorado to get them motivated to give in our region, since our office is located here and since we're not together, looking for a way to kind of activate people. And I think this event is so well received that way because it's in the exact right time of the year when people are looking for an opportunity. And I think the kind of breadth of things that are available through Douglas County make that just really an interesting way to donate. So just again, thanks for your good work and thanks for bringing it to us, and look forward to sharing that out.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's something that's going to touch everyone's heartstrings on that list. And Mike Anderson, Mike, do you have any thoughts?
Susan, thank you very much for your leadership with Douglas County Community Foundation. What an unusual year we have had with COVID virus and some of the things that we've asked residents to help out with where people have needs from, and the long list of organizations that are there to help people when they have specific needs. You know, we're particularly fond of Tall Tales Ranch in terms of their moving forward with building a facility very quickly, and recently residents have heard a lot about Stride Health helping out with activities related to COVID. So, and the list goes on and on. So yeah, thank you for your work in organizing the Give Day, and wish you a tremendous success.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And, you know, I mentioned the Community Foundation had the COVID-19 Recovery Fund this year, and it looks like that, you know, that's really going to be a focus for us again in 2021, nothing that we anticipated. But I think the stories that we heard, and, you know, for a community foundation to be able to grant money, there has to be an application process. And so that really helps us vet the needs and help us identify where we can make the biggest impact with the donors' dollars. And I know that there were instances, you know, where people couldn't pay their rent 1 month, and so they got rent assistance. There was a story of a woman who had fallen and broken her glasses and couldn't work. I mean, just so many extenuating circumstances, and I know you've heard them too. And so, you know, we've always talked about raising awareness of needs in Douglas County, and it happened in not any way that we ever wanted it to, but it has. So thank you so very much, all of you.
Thank you, Susan. And, you know, and I think it bears repeating that those small interventions like fixing the glasses or paying the rent for a month really not only provide unbelievable benefit to the individual receiving them, but I think position them for success and for minimize what they may need from in support financially. So I think that early intervention and that access couldn't be more important. So thank you, Susan, for the great work you continue to do on behalf of all of us. And it was, as shared by council, wonderful to see you, even though it was virtually. We'll look forward to seeing you in person next year.
Right. Okay.
All right. Take good care. Okay. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Bye.
All right. Okay, so now next on our agenda, we've got the Community Development Department update. We bumped Kelly last time because we had a lot going on, but so we're going to learn a little bit about the normal day-to-day in the city. Who could have imagined, even during COVID? Kelly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council, very much for this time this evening. I was actually on the docket to present this back in April, and of course things started to unravel quite a bit around us, but it was nice to go back to this presentation and remember that some things haven't changed. A lot hasn't changed in the city and with the people that we have, so I'm happy to talk with you a little bit about that tonight. The things that haven't changed mainly are our staff. We have a great group of people who are very, very committed to customer service in this city and who are just really dedicated to making sure that we are planning and building and maintaining a great community. So with that, next slide, please. I'd like to just discuss with you tonight a little bit of a reminder. What is community development? Who are we? Some of the projects that we have been working on this year that are COVID related, but more so more of the business as usual, I would call it, although adapted in some ways. And then just quickly looking ahead as to what 2021 might bring for us. Next slide. So just a reminder, when we say community development in Lone Tree, what that means is it consists of our planning division. So those are the folks that are doing the comprehensive plan, the code updates, the development review, all sorts of long range and short range planning that then gets forwarded to our City Planning Commission and to you all for the decision making. We have our building division, who of course is focused on building a safe community according to our building codes. And then finally, zoning compliance. That's more of the, really the maintenance of the community after we've done the planning and the building. This is the folks who are taking a look at kind of how do we make sure that people are maintaining property, that the community continues to look great. And then the fourth sort of leg of this table of community development is really our support staff. And this has been a new position over the last year that really helps bring together our ability to do all of these things by taking care of our records, doing records requests and records management, website information, backup to our building division, and a whole host of things that enable the rest of the group to really focus on their jobs. So real quickly, next slide, just a glimpse of who we are. You don't always get to see these folks, especially lately, but you all know Jennifer Drybread, our planning manager. Roshana Floyd is our senior planner, and Alex is our planner one. He's been with us for just a few months. Next slide, please. Our building division, we have Chief Building Official Matt Archer, Audra Gerber, and Jim Beaver. Next slide. Zoning compliance, our staff of one here is Julius Jaco, who also is our city forester. Next slide. And then that CD support is Shannon Allred, who I mentioned. So pleased to have this great group of folks who, like I said, are really, continuing to pull together and make sure that we're doing what is expected and then stepping in wherever we need to in these kind of crazy times. So next slide. On that point, we have, of course, like everyone else in the city, stepped in to try and help out however we could during this pandemic. Earlier in the year, we assisted with economic recovery initiatives, the public health initiative, the community employee well-being initiative. Roshana on our staff in particular worked with Kyoko and Jeff and others to build and maintain really this comprehensive database that we've all been using through this to make sure that we know how to get in touch with our businesses, who they are, all of the contact information and pertinent information that we need was pulled together in a hurry and has been really helpful. Also pursuing grant opportunities wherever we can. Next slide. Also COVID related, in terms of the building division, you know, the ability to do things online has really been a tenet of the building division all along, but it's paid off big time during this time. And the ability to kind of continue doing business, to stay open and continue to be responsive by allowing folks to do online permitting, to even offer remote building inspections. So we've really tried to emphasize our online services, permits, plan review, going back and forth with architects and contractors, all, you know, online has been really just so essential in keeping things moving. At this point, we are certainly offering appointments for folks who do want to come in who aren't as comfortable with online services, but it's really been far and few between, and folks are really appreciative of kind of the infrastructure that we do have with our online measures. Next slide. Some other proactive measures that we've done early on, you know, we recognize that our businesses were going to need more flexibility in terms of temporary signs and getting word out there about the fact that they are open or that they have modified pickup or, you know, whatever the case may be. So we have continued to offer these modified temporary sign policies. That's been on our website and put out to the business community as well. Julius and others, of course, have been working on temporary use permits, whether it be for tents or just temporary activities to help support the businesses. We're trying to expedite those as much as possible. And that comes into play too with property maintenance. Very, very important, but obviously, you know, a lot of businesses have other priorities right now. So we're trying to work with them to identify, you know, what are kind of those more important life safety issues and what are some things that can be deferred until they get back on their feet. And then the vacant property registration proposal is tied into this in some regards because, you know, unfortunately, we don't have, well, fortunately, we don't have a lot of vacant buildings currently. We hope that continues to be the case, but as we might see more and more of those, we want to be as proactive as possible. And so I'll explain more of that later during the regular session tonight. Next slide. So just some of the more business as usual things that I'm happy to report going on this past year. Next slide, please. New construction, you know, construction activity was deemed an essential activity, and so that has continued. Our building division has been fortunate enough to be able to continue those services through important projects like Pinnacle on the right side of the screen there, like the Charles Schwab office wrap project that is now complete. Next slide. Other important projects like the one right next to our arts center with the multi-tenant retail building and the daycare center, which are just finishing up construction at this point. Next slide. We have, you know, great news with Cochlear and with Kiewit, obviously, and looking forward to In-N-Out's opening very soon. And then moving on to zoning enforcement, as I said, you know, this is Julius's office now, his vehicle. So we're so appreciative of the council's approval to replace his older vehicle. It's been just so important in his ability to get out there, be visible, be known, still conduct business very visibly and safely. So this is where he spends all of his time out in the city patrolling as usual. And, you know, just quick numbers, I'm not going to read them, but you know that the philosophy is always to be very business friendly, very education based in our enforcement of our code. So, and this year proves that there's been no zoning violation tickets issued, lots of different cases involving lots of different issues, which thankfully are all resolved satisfactorily. Next slide. And then the forestry component, again, implementing the city's forestry plan that we have. Very, very important to kind of keep up with, you know, our natural environment and the trees. And, you know, they're hit hard every year by our climate. And we're just very, very grateful that businesses are willing to work with us and, you know, replace trees as needed. Next slide. And then in terms of planning, you know, business as usual, again, like I said, fortunately, we've been, lucky to work with our developer community, with Coventry Development in particular. They've got a lot in the pipeline, and we're just, really behind the scenes, frankly, right now, working on a lot that's going to be coming up in the future. But our Planning Commission has adapted beautifully to online meetings. We're conducting one tomorrow night for the Shea Homes preliminary plan application, as a matter of fact. But we've been able to pivot and adapt like everyone else in this regard. We are able to conduct remote meetings with staff and with our customers. Our website, we know people are using online information so much more, so we've made a concerted effort to really update that information and make it more of a one-stop shop for people who want to find out what's happening, want to find out more about Ridgegate, and so on. We're also pursuing code updates. You were all part of the subdivision code update that recently happened. We're going to be proposing some updates next year as well. And then also our planning fees are proposed to be amended, and we hope that that will come before the council next month. Next slide. And then looking ahead, we mentioned earlier tonight the Tall Tales Ranch project that was approved in terms of the SIP. Very, very hopeful that that group will be able to fundraise and get that project going. But that was a project early in this year that everyone worked on. Next slide. Certainly on the east side, looking east of I-25 in Ridgegate, you not too long ago saw the proposed Ridgegate Apartments at the end of the line station up in the upper right-hand corner. Below that will be the Coble affordable apartments that'll be coming to you very soon. And, lots of activity happening in this area. And we're just, again, really excited to be part of that, and hope to bring more information along these lines to you very soon. Next slide. And, it's not all shiny new stuff either. There's quite a bit of reinvestment still happening in the city. The Sears outlet building will be repurposed, at least in part, for this at-home retailer, which we hope to see coming in very soon. But as part of that, the building gets a facelift, and some of the zoning violations on the site will get corrected and things like that. Same with Canvas. They are continuing to reinvest in their building as well. And just small projects, these are just some examples, but Arby's, earlier in the year did a facelift on that project and a pretty substantial site amendment. So if you get out that way, you might notice that it looks more modern, and it's just a sign that, folks are still, like I said, reinvesting in Lone Tree. Just a couple more slides. This one, obviously, the east side, and looking ahead, we're very excited to bring forth the Southwest Village preliminary plan by Shea Homes to kind of kick off the more residential side of the east side development, and you will be seeing that come before you next month. And then, our goal for looking ahead is, we're going to continue to adapt like everyone else. We're going to try to improve and learn as much as we can about, what we're doing right, what we could do better, and continue to improve. We have some exciting things planned with Arbor Day, excuse me, and a tree replacement program that hopefully involves the community and at city buildings, replacing trees at city buildings. So we're excited about that. And then the code updates that I mentioned, we'll tell you more about this later, but we are looking at focusing on our site improvement plan section, and as well as our design guidelines. Next slide. And that's it. So I'll be happy to take any questions from council, and I just want to say thank you very much on behalf of our entire department for your continued support for what we do, and we're very grateful to be working in Lone Tree.
Thanks so much, Kelly, and I think I speak for all of council when I echo our gratitude to you. Your tenure at the city predates, I think, all of us, actually all of us, and I think you've done such a tremendous job over the course of the 25 plus years you've probably been, or just about that, you've been engaged. And I think the community development department is a great example of one of the parts of our organization that's been asked to really pull double duty. I think they all have, but you have certainly pivoted well with COVID while still maintaining the day-to-day. So I want to make sure council has an opportunity to ask questions. So let's start with Councilmember Anderson.
Well, Kelly, first of all, thank you very much for your efforts to listen to you talk about what's going on in terms of economic development, construction, reinvestment, and then to realize all the other things that go on in the department in terms of maintenance and code enforcement. Thank you for everything you do to be responsive to our citizens, to our businesses, and what a challenging year. What a tough year in terms of the COVID limitations that people had to try to put up with and trying to help people to be successful. So I do have one question, and I'm kind of looking back at the year, and I remembered early in the year that there were some bad trees around town, that there was a problem pre-COVID in terms of trees not making it through the winter very well. Is that turned out to be significant, or is it all going to take care of itself in time?
Well, I think just as part of the normal course of, the seasons and the climate changes that we have, our trees get hit hard every year. So it's a continuous process of working with, whomever the responsible party is. Sometimes there are partners in metro districts who are, well aware of the trees and the rights of way and have plans to replace those, and with our businesses. So it's a continuing battle to make sure that our trees are replaced and stay healthy, but we didn't see anything, drastic in terms of, diseases or, sort of chronic problems that would be worrisome. It's more of just, like I said, kind of the continuous effort to stay on top of that issue.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Wynn, any questions or comments?
Just a comment and a word of thanks, Kelly, for I know your department has always looked for ways to do things better and to be more customer focused. And this year, I want to thank you especially for being resilient. And I noticed Julius's slide that said there were a lot of issues with trees in particular, but no citations. And that to me is that fine line between enforcement and kindness. So thank you and thank him for taking the right lead for our city.
While upholding the good standards, right? And then I think that's the other piece of it. Exactly. All right, thanks, Wynn. Okay, Jay, thoughts?
Yes, thanks, Kelly. As always, great job. One question I have is that do you foresee these recent changes that we've done in terms of the COVID response and all of the efficiencies that you've created, once we get back to some level of normalization, do you foresee us still heading in that direction?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of lucky circumstances, I would say, in some respects, especially with our building division. They've always just been really innovative in terms of offering online services and smarter ways to work and more efficient ways to work. And we learned still more about how to do that through COVID and kind of the feedback that we got from our customers. So I would see those services continuing. And the good part about all of this, if there is a good part, is that people really have adapted and learned that they can do business in much different ways and still do it really well. So in that respect, I think we can continue to learn and improve. Just having the ability to do online meetings in the future, whether we have to for health reasons or not. I think that it just opens up more possibilities and helps us be more efficient and offer more services. So that's been a really eye-opening part of this experience, I would say.
Thanks, Jay. And then Kathy.
No questions for me, but Kelly, I just want to say that we're standing at the kind of beginning of a really important development for the South Metro area, and you and your team are going to have a heavy hand in just ensuring that that is done with the kind of background and planning that has made, Lone Tree successful to date. So I'm just really grateful to you and your team for kind of the gravity of that situation, and taking it so seriously. The depth of the work that we see with your team partnering with Keith and team it's really impressive. And I know as a team here, we feel the importance of kind of laying that groundwork as we go forward. So just want to thank you. Please give our thanks to the team for, the continued good work specifically around what's going to happen on the east side.
Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. I think that's very well said. And I think council touched on all, but the only other gratitude specifically is to the Planning Commission, Kelly, because you've had to pivot even with them and the online and meetings that you referenced a little bit. And I think that's been really challenging. How do you build and keep that team together when you're seeing each other just virtually and in different spaces? So really appreciate the good work. We're going to be hearing from you again. So stay tuned, Kelly, round 2. Thanks. And
Thank you.
And please, as was mentioned by Kathy and the rest of council, extend our thanks to your entire team.
Absolutely. Thank you so
All right,
much.
Great. All right, next we've got an update on 2021 custodial services contract, and Justin Russell is joining us. Justin, good to see you. I'm going to see you any second now, I think.
Yep, I should have my camera on. Can you all see me?
Yeah, now we can.
Perfect. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. I'm here to update you on the 2021 facility services contract that we are recommending. Next slide, please. So a little background on why we went out to RFP this year and pursued this. Our current contractor started at the Art Center in 2011 and at the rest of the facilities in 2015. We wanted to ensure that we have adequate service levels moving forward and to incorporate new technology that's in the market today. As well as wanted to make sure that we are checking the best price and service in the market every 5 years on services contracts like these. So a little background on our custodial cost. In 2019, we had an actual cost of just under $151,000. This year's projected custodial cost is $153,000. And our 2021 projected cost is between $150,000 and $155,000. Another reason we went out to bid on this year was the response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the level of service changes that occurred multiple times this year. We also wanted to give the city more flexibility with custodial services over the next 5 years. So a little overview on the RFP process. We received 8 proposals for custodial services. The RFP was for a 5-year contract with 1-year renewals. And then we asked for 3 levels of service to be priced for flexibility for the city. So a little bit more on those levels of service. 3 levels of service options that the city can change within the 30-day notice. Our base level provides the city with most cost-effective services for all facilities. The level 1 service provides 5 days a week custodial services for all facilities, and level 2 provides 6 to 7 days a week services for all facilities. And the benefit to this service levels is that we can change them separate in each facility. So for example, we could have PD set up 6 to 7 days a week, and then we have Art Center set up as 5 days a week, and we can change that as needed throughout the contract period. Next slide, please. So a little bit on the review and scoring on the RFP. The RFP was scored on costs, operation plans, work order systems, transition plans, as well as additional services and how the company was structured. The review committee consisted of 6 staff members from 4 different departments, and the proposal ranges came in from $91,000 to $223,000 per year for level 1 service. So the company that we're recommending is Environment Control. Their level 1 service cost came in at $102,000 a year. Just a reminder that the RFP proposal range was between $91,000 and $223,000. So their $102,000 was pretty well to the market. They are a family operated business since 2000 and based in Centennial. And they also locally manage and offers a internal work order system, which was very important to us. So a little bit more on the selection of Environment Control. They have a triangle of leadership approach to customer service, meaning that instead of dealing with one rep, through their work order system, when we have any issues or schedule changes, we submit a ticket through the work order system, and it goes to all the upper management staff, so we can make sure that our needs are taken care of within a timely fashion. They also have internal employee training and recognition programs, which we thought was very beneficial because it aligns to what the city values. As well as we checked local references and verified two that organizations that are close to us, South Metro Fire Districts and Castle Pines Metro District, which had great references on environmental control. And a little bit overview on the contract. So level 1 service cost is $102,000 per year. And just another reminder that the proposal ranges were from $91,000 to $223,000. The day porter rate was at $21 an hour for event cleaning. And the ranges we got for the RFP was between $19 and $29 an hour. And so just a little clarification on what the day porter is. It's our hourly custodian that we use for events at the Art Center, and we can also pull them for other events at other facilities as well. We have no projected budget increase for the 2021 custodial budget, which is at $150,000 to $150,000. Oh, I'll do it forward a slide there. And the reason between level 1 service cost of $102 and the projected budget of $150 is to cover those day porter rates and other stuff that we do, like carpet cleaning and window cleaning, etc. This is a 5-year contract with yearly performance renewals, and it has an annual escalator of 3%. Next slide. That concludes my presentation. Be glad to take any questions or comments that anybody might have, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Justin. All right, let's go to council questions. And again, you do a great job, and I bet it would have cost us more this year without you, because I know you really stepped up during COVID with all of our facilities. So again, thank you for that. Let's go reverse order. Kathy, you go first on this one.
Yeah, no questions for me. Super thorough. I appreciate that, and like that there's some buffer in there as we kind of don't know what's happening with the kinds of services that we're going to need, especially as we enter into the new year. So all looks good. Thank you.
All right, Jay.
All looks good to me. I appreciate you looking into the flexibility piece of it, and as Kathy alluded to, having a little buffer, because we don't know what 2021 is going to look like, and thereon. So appreciate it. I think it looks good, and we like it when it's lower than the previous year. That's always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jay. Wynn.
Thank you for the presentation. I think it was very straightforward, informative, and it's always nice to be able to hire a family-owned business who is nearby and familiar to us. Thank you.
And Mike.
Justin, thank you for looking at the proposals and picking one that looks like it's cost-effective and has some strong talent and systems in place to help us into the future. During COVID, some of companies, particularly around hospitality, have had problems with backup staff when they have to restrict people. How's your comfort factor in terms of where they are in terms of backfilling if they have problems during COVID?
That was one of the reference questions we asked when we called the references, and they scored very well on that, where they have employee pools that they pull from. They seem to be always hiring. A lot of their stuff, a lot of their people are part-time staff, so they have a lot of full-timers and they have a lot of part-timers that they're able to keep and retain, plus keep an employee pool for backups in case people get sick. Obviously, these days when someone gets sick, that they have to be quarantined for 2 weeks, so that's a big issue. So I addressed that with a lot of the references that I called, and a lot of them said that they've never missed a day and they always have a backup plan.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I don't have any additional questions. Thanks, Justin. And I do think it always makes sense to go out and look at the market every 5 years. So I appreciate you doing that. And we will look forward to we'll look forward to seeing that contract signed. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on and I hope everyone's as excited about this as I am. Our Entertainment District Redevelopment Tax Incentive Program discussion. And I think for a long time, a redevelopment of the Entertainment District has been a priority for council. And I think we've gone through a number of sessions, even prior to me being mayor. I think former councils, this has been a priority. And I think we have worked, the Business Improvement District was created there. I think we have, Jeff Hallwell has done tremendous work kind of bringing them together. I think one of the benefits of the Ridgegate development is that it's one property owner and there's one entity to speak with and negotiate with and have a common vision with. And I think the Entertainment District is made up of a whole bunch of different property owners with a whole bunch of different visions. And as we know, we've seen some empty buildings in that area for long periods of time. And so I'm really impressed with the work that staff has done to bring this presentation forward. And I really am looking forward to the thoughtful engagement from council on what we think about the idea and how we can tailor it and make it work for us. So with that, and we got, you know, the best and brightest with Kristen Baumgartner heading this up. So Kristen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mayor Malay and Council. I'm excited to speak with you tonight about this exciting idea and program and receive feedback. That's really what we're here tonight, is to talk about what staff has been working on and thinking about, and then get some feedback from all of you. Next slide, please. So really kind of the purpose behind this, and a huge shout out to Jeff Hallwell, as Mayor Malay mentioned. He's been working hand in hand with me on this, and we're really excited now to seek some guidance from council on a possible program to incentivize the reuse or the redevelopment in the Entertainment District area of the city. And we're looking to do this with some type of tax share back structure. Next slide, please. Kind of the premise of this is we really want to use this program to encourage development in an area where it's important for the city for people to shop, eat, and pursue leisure and recreational activities, and includes incentivizing uses such as restaurants, retail shopping, entertainment venues, and other similar uses. We'll go into more detail on why we are focusing on this specific area of the city, but we really do want to kind of drive the redevelopment and reuse for what we think would be most beneficial to the city and to our residents. We aren't looking at changing any zoning or city design standards. We are recommending that we keep all that intact, and if there would be requests to do things differently, they would have to go through our normal processes. And then also, we are proposing that the properties must be within the Entertainment District PDD area. And that is just giving us a nice delineation of a specific part of the city that's already been formed and has been kind of deemed as our entertainment district throughout the time the city's been incorporated. Next slide, please. And so the Entertainment District PDD is a little different from our Lone Tree Business Improvement District, which we've talked a lot about in previous years. And so we wanted to show a map kind of initially that this area that we're looking at considering for this program would include the Lone Tree Business Improvement District, which are the properties north of Park Meadows Drive, but it also would include several properties south of Park Meadows Drive, which would include the area where the vacant Trio building is, the Forstrom area, and also the commercial area up Park Meadows Drive that currently have several commercial sites in them. Next slide, please. This area, as far as why we're continuing to focus on this area, which as Mayor Malay talked about in her opening comments, is that this isn't a new area we've been looking at. As you know, we've invested a lot of time and effort over the years to look at how we can continue to make this a vibrant area within the city. Back in 2013, we hired a consultant to put together kind of a vision for this area that would make it very multimodal and have a vibrancy that would draw our residents to want to come to this area. That was kind of the beginning of what drove the Lone Tree Business Improvement District forming and getting those property owners in that area to come together with common area maintenance to continue to invest specifically in that area, but also wanting to expand that and look at kind of a larger part of the city that's always been deemed the entertainment district. We also, if council remembers, have spent some time looking at this area for an urban renewal authority possibly, and did do some work as far as this area being in the kind of the blighted category and wanting to make sure that reinvestment was occurring and that it is really important. In looking at that, we kind of put that on hold and aren't pursuing that, but this is kind of a new program that again might be a way to incentivize redevelopment in the specific area. And also, as Mayor Malay mentioned, there are multiple business owners in this area, which makes it challenging, but also we've seen that this area usually does attract more local businesses in our community, which finding a way to incentivize kind of local investment, I think is also a good reason for focus in the entertainment district. Next slide, please. So just to kind of talk about, some of the challenges we're seeing in this area, we've had some long-term vacancies. We both all know these, both of these sites as the Trio, and then the Forstrom building is what we refer to the second picture. And these have been undeveloped and just not able to see some turnover for going on, I think, 10 years. And so it's still really important for us to make sure that we're looking for ways that we can incent the type of development we want in both of these properties. Next slide, please. We also are seeing that there's been some recent turnover where properties are for lease or sale, and most recently Sweet Tomatoes became vacant earlier this year, and then we recently found out that Fox and Hound is currently for sale or lease, in addition to Ichiban and also Los Arcos. That property that was formerly Los Arcos is in kind of that category. And then next slide. And then we also are a little worried, and we'll see what the future holds, but even pre-COVID, we had some challenges, but now with COVID, it'll be interesting to see how some of our more entertainment venues survive and adapt with COVID and all the impacts that they've seen. As we know, the movie theater has been heavily impacted, and we're really happy that Bolero was able to reopen, but that will continue to be impacted over the next couple months as we continue to see cases rising. Next slide, please. So then again, just kind of wanted to, on one slide, put all the properties that kind of make up this area right now that are either that are vacant without tenants. And Miyama is the other one I didn't mention. That's a pretty big site that is also currently not occupied. So because of all of this, we've been looking at some different options. And if you go to the next slide, please, staff's initial recommendation that we want to receive feedback from council tonight on is to propose some type of incentive structure for this area. We've looked at a couple different things, and again, have just some initial thoughts and then want to open it up for feedback. But really, the first one is that we would want properties to be vacant for a year to qualify for this. This is really meant to incentivize redevelopment in areas that sit vacant for a period of time. So we don't really want this to be for kind of the regular turnover. We know there's going to be some regular turnover, and we want kind of the natural course of business to run for businesses in that category. For the ones that are vacant for more than a year, then we would want to create what we are referring to as an established base amount. And this is somewhat similar to kind of an increment concept that we've talked about. We've talked about urban renewal areas or things of that nature where, for example, we could look at a property and we would take a period of time, possibly in this example, the previous 60 months from the time that we're looking at this incentive, and we would annualize sales taxes collected by the city for that property over the previous 60 months. So what this does is if a property has been vacant longer, those vacant months would be calculated in that 60-month time period, and the base would be smaller versus properties, say it was a year 2 property that had been vacant and we had been collecting sales tax more recently, that base amount would be larger, which would result in a lower eligibility for share back. Once we establish that base amount, then we would, the amount over that established base amount would be considered the enhanced sales tax and be eligible for share back. On the next slide, some other things that we've considered. Again, one of the goals is to result in larger share backs for properties that have been vacant longer, because as we know, as properties sit vacant, we run into more and more issues of property maintenance, which is buildings needing more investment to get to where they need to be then. And we want to really incent kind of those long-term vacancies to be redeveloped into tax-generating entities. You know, there also is some need for public benefit whenever there is any type of tax sharebacks or incentive program. There would need to be a public benefit, and we feel that the public benefit in these examples would be occupancy of vacant spaces getting filled, as well as revitalization of underutilized commercial properties in our area. Again, we have talked as staff and feel that we would recommend these sharebacks could range from a 5 to 7 year time frame, and that we would want to look at some type of tiered approach, and so that as the years go by, the shareback goes down. So it could be, for example, 100% year 1, 90% year 2, etc. But it would go down over time. We also would recommend that in this specific area, we would consider other tax types such as admissions and lodging tax be considered, not just sales tax. And again, if this is an area where we're really trying to get kind of this vibrant entertainment function, that if a business came in where they would have admissions and lodging tax, we would want to consider that as a possibility as well. And then lastly, construction use tax would only be something staff would recommend considering in a limited case basis, where we would possibly also share back a portion of that. I think those would be for some of the more extreme cases where maybe there's increased cost due to kind of the nature of the redevelopment at hand. We wanted to provide just a few examples to council just to kind of understand the scope of what this might be. And again, this is just one example. We took a 5-year kind of tiered shareback approach, as I mentioned, and looked at kind of 2 different scenarios. One, if it was something more similar to a freestanding restaurant building that ends up turning over into another restaurant, we could see, based on the kind of enhanced sales tax that would be generated into the area of 100,000 to 200,000 approximate share back over 5 years. And that would be cumulative over the 5-year period, so not annually. So over the 5 years, 100 to 200,000. On a more significant redevelopment of a larger building, we anticipate this could generate a higher amount, up to 300 to 500,000, again, over a 5-year period. But all of these numbers would change quite a bit if we included other tax types, if we increase the number of years, depending on what the tiered shareback percentages were, etc. So this is one example, but looking at council feedback to then see what your thoughts are, and then we can get kind of more specific with different scenarios. Next slide, please. So really, again, tonight, we're seeking some council feedback, just kind of on your initial thoughts, and if you have any specific comments on some of the staff recommendations at this time. Next steps, if this is something council is supportive of, would be to really start working on a draft ordinance with our city attorney and with other departments in the city to make sure we make this all comprehensive. And then in addition to a draft ordinance, which would come to council, we would recommend that then we would have property specific agreements in the future as well. So the ordinance would be kind of the overarching guidance, and then we would have individual property agreements that we would use to guide us on how we would structure each of those sharebacks. And then we do think this is something, if there's support for it, that we could do fairly quickly, and that we would be able to bring it back to council for formal consideration and approval in early 2021. And so that's my prepared presentation this evening, but definitely want to open it up for questions and comments. And thank you again for your time this evening.
Thanks, Kristen. And the only other, before I really do want council to have a really vibrant, thoughtful discussion about this. I do, from my higher level thinking, really feel like the share back has got to be, it's linked to improvements. Basically, it's those people coming in are making an investment, and this is kind of helping offset some of those costs to turn these properties over. So there is a link to the improvements that they're making in the property, and then it's aesthetic. And to me, one of the things that I heard consistently as we've talked about reimagining the entertainment district is kind of the walkability and access of that, and that to me would be another kind of thing I would like to see in it. But would love to. Who would like to go? Who would like to start this conversation off? And I'm really, it's open mic area now. Somebody please jump in.
I'll take a stab. But, no, go ahead, Wynn. I'll yield to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this looks like a very creative approach, and I think it will help to fill the properties and to really improve the space with some thoughts to the area surrounding them. I like this approach.
Great. Jay, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think it's great to be creative and to think outside the box and try to find something that we haven't been able to move the needle on. So I like the concept a lot. I just have a couple clarifying questions, Kristen. So when that share back amount that you were talking about, is that with the 5-year, it's called 100,000 to 500,000? Is that the projected sales tax that this new entity or restaurant or retailer or whomever would generate, or is this? I'm just trying to get my head around it, or is it property taxes that they're paying in general, obviously not to the city, that they would be reimbursed? I just don't know the structure of it all.
Yep, no, very good question. So it would just be taxes coming to the city that would be covered in this program. And again, how we're proposing structuring it is that we establish a base amount that the city would still receive based on what was there previously. So we want to make sure the city stays whole, and that whatever was kind of generated previously in the last 5 years, that calculates out to a base amount that only what is generated above that is then eligible for share back in the staff recommendation. And so that's one thing I forgot to mention, is it's important. We want to make sure that the city kind of stays whole for where we are, but then that additional money that's generated would be structured as a share back with that property owner. So depending on what they chose to redevelop it as, that would increase if it was something more in the nature of what we envision this area to have, like restaurants and entertainment venues, versus if something would turn over into a medical office, for example, that wouldn't be eligible for a share back because there's not a tax generation component to it. So it could be up to sales tax, lodging tax, admissions tax, and possibly construction use tax would be the taxes we would be considering. But since the city doesn't have a property tax, it wouldn't be anything property tax related.
Okay.
But Jay, I think you have a follow-up, but I think what was just said is really important. So the use, the transition of the use is going to be essential. It would have to be a use that is going to be generating sales tax revenues. So Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so and thanks, that definitely clarifies my question, because I was thinking of, there was a potential tenant, or for Miyama, that was going to be, I think, a dentist office or some medical office, and I was just trying to get my head around what that structure would look like, so that wouldn't apply. So it's mainly just trying to create incentive for sales tax revenue generation, so, which I think is a great idea. So I just wanted to get some clarity around that, so thanks.
So to that point, though, Kristen, I think that in the program, let's just call it that for now, we would identify preferred uses or eligible uses, right? That would be, I guess, businesses that would be eligible to participate, and that would be based on their ability to generate additional sales tax revenues or emissions tax or lodging tax from the property, right? That would be an element of the program.
Correct.
Okay. Yep. Okay, Jay, anything else? Nope. Okay, Mike, what are you thinking? I feel like you're starting to speak.
I appreciate that you recognize my body language.
Even virtually.
I think it's a terrific idea. You know, when properties sit there idle, it doesn't help. What we want is a vibrant entertainment district. I don't know the details of the vision plan that put together in 2013, but I remember that happening and saw some of the ideas, and it sounded very exciting at the time. So one of the questions I have in terms of designing the program is just fairness. You know, if you look across the various types of businesses that might want to be in an entertainment district, I think at the end of the day, you'd like that people thought it was an incentive and they didn't feel like somebody else got a better package than they did. And so I don't know how you do that, but fairness, I think, is a thing to think about in the program.
Perfect. No, that's really good feedback. And we have talked about that a little bit internally, so really appreciate that.
Kathy, what do you think?
The other,
sorry, Mike, go ahead.
The other item that I put on the table in terms of thinking about the design of the program is, how do you make sure you don't jump the gun on market conditions and just let the market do what it does to change over the businesses and move them along? I understand your element in terms of waiting a year, but I wouldn't want people delaying moving forward with normal market conditions so they can get an incentive.
And we thought about that as well, Mike. That's a really good question and point. I think some of it would work itself out because of that, again, established base amount that the incentive, you know, to wait like 1 year to 2 years, incentive would be minimal, just because of that having to overcome that base amount first. So again, we'll think about it. There's other ways, but it really is meant to promote these buildings that do struggle, that don't kind of naturally turn over in the course of business, so that those aren't the ones that are sitting vacant for years and years. So we'll continue to talk with our legal counsel and staff about making sure we kind of think through that, because again, we don't want to disencourage investment with this program either, definitely.
Thank you for being creative.
And to that point, Kristen, I know there's other communities that have implemented something similar to this. So if you could see how they've, I think that question, I think a lot of us had in our mind, is that, do we have a cutoff period? Is it a year? I mean, are we going to keep this open for 5 years, guys? And I think that's probably something else to think about. So I've got a list of questions for you guys. You know, this isn't going to be a forever program. So we have to think about the time frame for a business and how many years of share back exists, but we also have to think about the time frame that we're going to keep this program opened initially from the city's perspective. So I'm going to come back to you guys with that. But before, Kathy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I like the idea, like Wynn said, this, you know, looking for an incentive, especially for this specific area. I'm really glad to see that we've extended it beyond just what's traditionally been called the entertainment district, because I do think that whole area is in need of some revitalization. So excited about that. And I think my initial thought around it is that it will absolutely provide a great incentive where the person who's purchasing the space or redeveloping the space can see that benefit. And so I love that. What it doesn't incent, unfortunately, is those folks that we have who are sitting on property, and what we really need is for them to ultimately sell that property in order for development to happen. So it kind of doesn't solve some of the issues that we have there. I know it can't solve everything. So for what it does solve, I'm excited about it. But I think for a couple of the mentioned properties, it would take the purchaser being willing to spend more money, knowing that they could get the share back as part of the overall value proposition in my mind. So just something to think about as we're working, alongside those folks as they go through the process.
And to that point, I don't think the property owner who sells it should be eligible to
Right.
get more money because they're going to get that back, because that isn't the intent, right? You're absolutely right. So I think that is a challenging. I think to me that is the biggest challenge. If the existing property owner develops it, then they're eligible. If they sell it to somebody else, I don't want to do that either. So
yeah, no, I don't think the program should be changed in any way because of that. I just think it kind of illuminates a couple of the areas that we have this issue. We might have to work very closely with the potential buyer to make sure that they know that there are some benefits available to them in this format in order to get them excited about making the purchase. That's also, it's just a different approach. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we design a different program targeted towards those, Kathy.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. So I think what I heard kind of consensus around that it's tied to improving the property, including the aesthetics to the public, mobility to the public, the time frame is something that I would like a little more feedback from. So the share back, I think I heard consensus of sharing it back, establishing a share back for 5 years seems appropriate, but how long do we want to keep this incentive program available to the PDD? And is there a recommendation from staff on that?
We looked at that a little bit. Some of our peer communities that have done this had like a 7-year time frame. I would say, we haven't really delved into that. I think having an end to the program at some point, but also depending on how long we do the share back. So if we do them for 5 to 7 years. So I think we're up for council thoughts on that. I don't think we have a strong recommendation, but it would need to be, I would think, for multiple years. And also it's in the ordinance form. And so at any time, council could choose to change the ordinance. So even if there is a time frame originally established, if for some reason that needs to change, it could change through amending the ordinance in the future.
I like the idea of putting a time frame attached to it, though, so it encourages people to act. So I guess I kind of like the 5-year window, because even if somebody started, so if it started in 21 and the 5th year they did it, we'd still be sharing back the tax through 2026, and with kind of the option to renew this and maybe change it and tweak it as we learn more. What are council's thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I like the time limit. 5 years seems about right with market cycles changing, but I think we need to build in some verbiage to protect the city to give us the flexibility, in year 5 to extend it if we still, we still need that incentive. So I think we need to build in some flexibility to it, but I like 5 years just seems right to me just in terms of a market cycle. So.
Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
No.
Kristen, is there an intention to have them demonstrate what any specific improvement is that they're going to do, and so to make them eligible for these funds? Or we just, so if they lease a building and really don't do anything necessarily to it, to improve aesthetics or to improve mobility, we're still gonna, is the intention of this that we would still offer the share back?
So staff's recommendation was to not have it strictly tied to improvements, because some of the buildings or some of the areas might not have a need for a lot of improvements. We could tie that in as maybe a higher incentive on areas that could possibly do that, but we were recommending having it strictly be also eligible for areas that are just refilling vacant spaces to kind of vitalize the area. So that is a decision point and a policy decision by council for sure. If you want it strictly tied to physical improvements, I think it might limit some of the incentives for certain properties.
Yeah, I could see that, but I do like the idea because some of the aesthetics and particularly the walkability do need to be improved. I'm intrigued by the idea of offering a larger share back if they've met certain elements, but then going back to Mike's point, how are you fair? Is it $1 investment in use tax that we link it to, or maybe we refund a portion of use tax if they do make these structural or physical improvements? I kind of like that idea. What is count? So use tax could be on the table if they make over $20,000 of use tax improvements. I don't know. Is that even, or should we just say any level of improvement? Use tax is on the table.
Yeah, and you bring up the point. So take Fox and Hound, for example. So someone could come in there and operate it without having to make a lot of improvements. Whereas you look at Forestrom or Trio, and that's going to take a lot of capital to get those functioning. So you still want to encourage those people to come in. So I don't know what the answer is, and we can challenge staff to come up with some kind of sliding scale, maybe. I don't know, but I think we don't want to cap it at capital improvements if someone can come in and have be a turnkey operation. So.
Right, and then I think Chris and you, what I also want to understand is the properties that have been vacant, and generating nothing or have never been occupied. So are we saying those properties would get, if we were going to, the other thing, you would, in response to one of Jay's questions, you had said, no, the city's going to be made whole. So what if the property hasn't been has never generated any revenue or hasn't generated revenue in 10 years? How do you propose establishing a base at that point?
So for the vacant properties, like the Trio site, for example, that would have a zero base amount. And again, kind of the city has been receiving nothing for that property for that period of time. So our recommendation would be on that one that there would be no base amount. And so if that property got redeveloped, it would be, again, on that sliding scale up to the full percentage of what's ever generated, which the city then would be receiving some portion if we had kind of a tiered approach. But that would further incent some of those long-term buildings to be used, redeveloped faster. I think one area we didn't really think about a lot that we need to talk more about is new build. So we were kind of looking at reuse and redevelopment, but there are, I know, some pad site availability in the entertainment Lone Tree BID area. So we need to kind of think through what this would look like if we did offer it to brand new construction.
And so if I'm wondering if some of the problems solve themselves then, if it's in a vacant or something that's been vacant or never occupied, and they're going to go in and make improvement, they get to keep everything. I guess the other thing is I don't like up to 100%. I kind of like up to 90%. I would like the city to get something back to something, just so the building operator has got a little skin in the city's game and understands that something comes back to the city. So I guess love council to, or am I alone in that, or is everybody comfortable giving up to 100%?
I am not comfortable giving up to 100%. I can understand a fairly sizable amount coming back during the first year, percentage-wise, and I think the presentation did say 90, and I could go with that, but I think that it does have to ratchet back. I don't want to limit the potential so much, and then in 4 or 5 years' time they're gone.
Right, because they were making it because they were getting all that money back.
Right. Yeah, it seems like there's got to be enough balance that they especially for the new businesses. Again, I think the existing, that's going to take care of itself because there's the base amount and it's the amount above the base amount that comes back. But for the, I almost think for the vacant buildings, there could be some average per square foot base amount that a restaurant might, I know they're going to be all over the board, but some minimal threshold of base amount that comes back to the city first.
Yeah, and I would like, Kristen, I think council, I'm hearing consensus from council that we don't want the business to only be making it because it's keeping all of the sales, you know, share back, and that the minute that stops that they don't. So we'd like to see guardrails to prevent that. And I think that would fall, and I think those guardrails would also work, that same would work for new build.
Sounds good. Sounds great.
Go ahead.
As we're sitting here and talking about this, and I'm thinking about the different structures in the entertainment center and the incentive package, and what is you know, what we'd like to see come out of this as we move forward in time. I wonder if there's some way to also build into the program that it's not just improvements to the structure that the buyer is thinking about taking over and operating a business in, but to the extent that we have a vision and that there's mobility and aesthetics, and there may be some what I would call common ground. If somebody has more of an interest in not just promoting their building, but promoting the entertainment district and the feel and the vision, do we reward that?
I like the concept. It maybe it would it incentivize property owners to collectively come with a vision. But that might get too complex, to be honest, Mike. But that's why I would like the idea of having some kind of a public improvement that's tied to the share back. Even if it's, you know, improving sidewalk, improving access and aesthetics. So not just going in and turnkey.
Well, yeah, I think, Mayor, we can definitely give that some thought. We can also come back with some ideas about sort of the base amount for, you know, long-term vacant buildings or new build parcels. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then the other thing, though, I want to make sure that we keep our eye on the ball is that what we want to really make sure that this program does is incentivize the uses that we're looking for.
Yes.
And you know, Councilmember Carpenter gave the example of the medical office going into the former restaurant. So that's a case where, you know, if it goes to a medical office, we get very little revenue, you know, some use tax. But if it, you know, turns into a restaurant or an admissions tax type use, obviously we get a lot more, even if we're giving more away at the beginning. So I think that's where we want to focus. And the last thing, as far as the kind of the time frame of the program, Mayor, I think you were brought up how we could figure that. I don't think there's a way, and Linda and I can talk about this, to just sort of make a ordinance expire on its own. But I think in the sort of the legislative intent, we can add that language in there, and then that in, you know, in the when we talk about the program publicly, you know, we can refer to that this is going to be a limited time, you know, type of program, and we want to, you know, encourage buildings to get going in the next 5 years.
Great, Seth. So I think, do you guys think there's been enough feedback? You can take it, work with it, and then bring it back to us again to kind of have a react to that. Okay, that sounds great. Is council comfortable with that? Yep, seeing head nods. Yep, great.
Thank you guys very much.
Council, I would encourage you, if you have thoughts on this, to please connect with Kristen and Seth and share, you know, as you spend some time thinking about this afterwards now, connect, you know, and give them your ideas.
We'll send out the vision book. It's been quite a few years since we've dusted that off, so I think it still stands up pretty well. But it's been a while, so I'm not surprised that some of you have, or that any of us would forget the details of what's in that. So we'll recirculate that as well.
Seth, the only final thought I would, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I love you guys to spend some time on it, thinking about if there was a public improvement made. To kind of going back to what Mike was saying, but if a piece of art was added, or I'm not sure if that's, you know, more bigger than broader than, but or a plaza area created, that would be a qualifying thing for me. You know, if there was something along those lines that would incentivize a group of businesses to get together to create a common space, a common gathering space, a community space, or a community asset like a piece of art. Think about that too in there.
Yeah, I've got some ideas about that, so that's a great idea. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you, Seth. All right, guys. All right, now let's go backwards a little bit. We're going to get an election update from Jeff Hallwell, who's also done a lot of good work on this. So Kristen, before I go, thank you. This is amazing. Really appreciate it. And then Jeff, let's hear. Tell us all we forgot about from November. Was it 4th or 5th? I can't even remember. 4th.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. And I want to applaud Kristen's work on this too. I think it's going to, you know, it's an important work, and we'll be working hard on the previous program as well. But you know, to the election update, believe it or not, just 2 weeks ago was the national election and local election as well. But what you haven't heard probably as much of in the media is how it's impacted local things and local races. So that's what a lot of this is about, what things may impact the city of Lone Tree. So next slide, please. First, I know you're aware that Amendment B, the repeal of the Gallagher Amendment, passed at about 57%. I actually was pretty surprised that it passed. These amendments in the past have not had much luck to do much change to Gallagher, but the immediate impact I don't think will be as obvious as what I think the meetings you go to in 3 years from now will be really interesting based upon what happened last 2 weeks ago, because there will be a longer term lag of how the changing of Gallagher will impact local districts, what it'll change to the commercial property tax rate of 29%. A whole lot of things are going to fluctuate, and for the next year, it basically freezes things at 7.15% for homeowners in their assessment rate, which has an immediate impact to some districts. I think long term it'll be interesting to watch, especially as we deal with our own property tax districts locally as well. Next slide, please. This is one, of course, we've been talking a lot about a nicotine products license in the city of Lone Tree. You're aware that Proposition EE was also on the statewide ballot to create a statewide tax for nicotine products, and that passed in an overwhelming way at just over 67%. Next slide, please. Proposition 118, it has an impact, at least one that we should study to the city of Lone Tree. It creates and was passed the paid family and medical leave insurance program in Colorado. The program it's a statutory initiative, so it's going to require legislative action in the next session to enable it. Even just basic things like creating a department and who are they going to hire to run it, and so it's not as if January 1st they flip a switch and it's on. One thing that is, if you might remember in the legislation, a local government can opt out of this. So we will have to make that decision one way or the other, or as it comes together. You don't have to make this decision by January 1st. I think watching the legislative session piecemeal this thing together will be our best bet to see what it's all about. So stay tuned to more information about that. Next slide, please. Some local elections worth talking about around us. The one that we're probably most aware of, the City of Castle Pines ballot issue 2A, the 8 mil property tax for road reconstruction and maintenance failed with their local voters, and the just above 57% of people in Castle Pines voted against it. Conversely, the idea of electing a mayor at large in the city of Lone Tree actually was passed at above 80%. So it was quite popular in Littleton to have a charter change in that area as well. Next slide. This is not exhaustive. CML has a really nice newsletter that shows what happens statewide, but some things that are worth, food for thought. Statewide sales tax questions were approved or extended in Denver for climate change and pollution, and second for homelessness. In Fort Lupton, they were approved for street improvements. Greeley for capital construction projects, and Pueblo for economic development. Sales tax questions failed in places too. In Loveland, it was around public safety, infrastructure, and capital equipment. Meade for police department and street improvements. Monument for police services, programs, and facilities. So it's the newsletter from CML does a really nice job of getting even deeper into this question as well. Next slide, please. Some local races that you're probably aware of, but worth pointing out. Commissioner District 2 will be George Teal. In Douglas County, Commissioner District 3 will be Laura Thomas. The district attorney race for the 18th Judicial District is in recount. An automatic recount was ordered yesterday. John Kellner is ahead by 18 votes. So it's undecided, but John Kellner is ahead. In RTD, there will be a change. The incumbent, Ken Mahalik, is not returning. Julian Bouquet, who I believe he lives in Lone Tree or in and around the Lone Tree area, will be joining the RTD board in District G. In the Town of Parker Mayor race, Jeff Toborg won that race. Next slide, please. And we're down to the last couple here. In the state legislature, nothing has really changed. These were folks who were already in these seats. However, several had elections and they won. But leadership positions have been also decided in the last week. Chris Holbert will retain his title as minority leader in the Senate. Jim Smallwood will be the Republican caucus chair in the Senate. Kevin Van Winkle in District 43 was appointed or won the election to be assistant minority leader in the House of Representatives. I think that probably the most powerful job would end up falling into Kim Ransom's seat. Representative Ransom retained her role on this Joint Budget Committee. Locally, we have this influence as well. I might point out that Alec Garnett from District 1 has won the election in the House of Representatives to be the Speaker of the House, replacing Casey Becker. And then last slide, please. You've heard this today, and I think the next topic we'll get more into it. The governor today called a special session of the legislature, which will probably begin on Monday or sometimes next week. It will be dealing with COVID-related relief. This one will be led by Casey Becker because she's still Speaker of the House until 2021. What they're hoping to focus this revenue towards is relief for bars and restaurants, landlords and tenants, and then student assistance. What they mean by that is, internet access or other things, online students might need to be successful in throughout the winter. So stay tuned for this session, and we'll see how this transpires in December. And that's the last of my slides, but I'm very happy to answer questions or address anything that I didn't put in here. I didn't want to go too far with the presentation.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, one of the things that I did hear the governor is considering, amongst a number of things, to, from his perspective, help small businesses is allowing them to retain sales tax, which would be devastating for us because that is our only revenue source for our operating budget. So has there, and I reached out to Seth, obviously, and to Kathy, and I know the Metro mayors are going to have a lot to say about it, but and I know CML is as well, but have you heard anything more about that other than just the speculation of one of the many things being considered by the governor?
I've not heard any more, Mayor. I mean, that it was an idea floated last legislative session. I do know if they call a special session, that would have to be addressed directly in the call for the special session, so we would know immediately upon calling for it if that was going to be a bill on the table. But my presumption is that at least what's being reported is that the other 3 topics would be more relevant. I could maybe see that being. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's at least comes up in a bill, come January. Whether that bill makes it very far is the other question. But we'll at least know pretty quickly if that's part of the special session. But I haven't heard.
All right. Well, I think we all need to use our very loud voices to say that's a bad idea. Any other questions for Jeff on any of the issues? It's open mic night.
No questions. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff, for again all your thoughtful work and information that you prepare, and make sure we are well prepared as we move forward. So thank you for that. And I think we also have to acknowledge the leadership positions that our Douglas County representatives have achieved, which speaks well for the influence of the county. So, all right. Thanks, Jeff. We know more to come from you, especially as we look at potentially changes in COVID. So stay tuned. I'm sure you're going to listen to Bill's update. I'm sure Bill's been rewriting his update the entire time that we've been in this study session. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Medina for the ever-changing COVID update.
Okay, so, Mayor, City Council, good evening. Yeah, obviously a lot of change today. So in preparation for this presentation, I had the new capacity level matrix, but the public health order was just published while we've been in this meeting. So I got some work tomorrow to get caught up. The first thing I wanted to cover is where Douglas County stands on the metrics, and that's on this next slide here. This is the information from yesterday. Of course, the daily metrics get posted at 4 p.m. So in terms of new cases, Douglas County is squarely, and has been for quite a while, squarely in level red. These are the 2-week incidents per 100,000 of population. In terms of positivity, we are at 11.64% positivity. That puts us in level orange. And we have seen that positivity rate increase significantly over the last several weeks. The last one is about stable or declining hospitalization, which is defined by the state as no more than 2 admissions on any given day in the last 14 days, or no greater than a 25% increase in admissions in the last 14 days. And so in terms of the increase in admissions, we are at 17.1%, but 8 of the last 14 days, we've had more than 2 admissions in Douglas County hospitals. So we are it is a little bit concerning in terms of ICU usage within the county. We're at 86% usage right now, and that's a little bit higher than the state, which is at 84% usage. So the hospitalizations is something that obviously is of great concern across the state, and should be something that has our attention here within the county. If we go on,
Bill, I'm sorry, can I just clarify that 86%? Is that 86? I'm sorry, capacity of the ICU? Or
yeah.
what ICU capacity?
So that's ICU usage. So I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's 83% as of yesterday. So 83% of ICU capacity, not including surge capacity. So this is just standard ICU beds within the county, are currently occupied.
Thank you. Okay.
Yep.
Somebody asked me that today, and I was like, oh, I'm going to find out tonight. So I just did.
So a little bit about the public health orders. So recently they combined the Protect Our Neighbors, Safer at Home, and Stay at Home into one public health order. And of course that was amended today. It was amended by adding another category, which was extreme risk, purple. And of course we went from the number system to all the color coding. So as we started today's meeting, we're at level orange, and Adams County, something of note, Adams County recently had a curfew imposed from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., which does impact the operation of non-critical retail, prohibits it during those hours. As of yesterday, statewide, this is where the county stood in terms of where they were on the dial that existed that exists as of today. But I think what's most interesting is that based on the incident rate metric alone, 52 of 64 counties should technically be in the red. So if we go to the next slide, we'll take a little bit of a look at what the different levels. I originally had prepared this as a comparison between yellow, orange, and red, but thought it probably was more appropriate to add the purple category here. So a move to level red obviously is going to have a significant impact, and probably the most significant impact for us is the impact on indoor dining. So that will be prohibited. Takeout, delivery, and outdoor dining will only be permitted in level red. One of the other things that's kind of interesting that's not included on this chart is that personal gatherings in both level red and level purple are prohibited. So that means that anything that is not covered under one of the other provisions within the public health order that happens outside of a residence is prohibited. Now there's a little bit of, I went through the health order, there's a little bit of difference on how the language is written in level red and level purple. So I think there's probably going to have to be some clarification about whether residences are included or not in that prohibition. And then of course, indoor events are closed, which obviously impacts our art center under level red. And then the variances are reevaluated, and according to information we got from Seth, it appears that the Park Meadow variance, even as we move to level red, will be honored. Are there any questions on this slide? I know there's a lot of information here, and I hope to provide a better summary once I have a chance to get through the public health order.
Yeah, Bill, I had a quick question. So you just mentioned that Park Meadows, the variance will be honored with any caveats attached to it, so any capacity constraints?
So the restaurants that are, so the variance covers the indoor mall portion of Park Meadows. And so the restaurants are going to have to comply with the level red restrictions that are in place here. So that obviously has a huge impact for the Park Meadows retail resort as a whole. So yes, there are going to be impacts.
Bill, what is considered outdoor dining? Are the igloos outdoor dining?
Yeah, so Jeff and I talked about that today. So technically, the way the guidance is currently written, the igloos are indoor dining. So the state has put out some pretty specific guidance on outdoor venues. So people were coming up with all kinds of creative ideas about using greenhouses and tents and igloos. And some of it is just to expand their capacity for dining. Some of it was to create outdoor venues. So essentially, if you have any kind of structure that has permanent or temporary or semi-permanent or temporary that has 3 walls or 2 walls that are cojoined that are down, that is basically indoor dining. So, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of questions about how we maybe ask Tri-County Health to go back and request that some of these small, like the igloos or the greenhouses, if those were used for just one household, maybe that could be permitted. But you know, we'll have to see what the response is on that.
Okay. I just think there's a lot of there's nothing. I'm preaching to the choir here, but there's been significant investments made by our business community on what they thought were outdoor tents, you know.
Right.
Right. Not your. I'm not yelling at the messenger. I'm just trying to unravel it and understand it because people are asking me those questions. So.
Right.
Okay.
And you know, once again, I'm going to provide a better summary that Seth can transmit to you all via email soon. So the next slide, we recently had a an all-hands meeting with our staff, and we want to provide them with a few things that they can do that are very simple to provide for the safety of themselves, their families, and their coworkers. And the first one has been a pretty consistent message pretty much since May, and that's face covering, social distancing, and proper hygiene. I don't think we need to talk more about that. The next one is that we need to monitor symptoms among not only our household but close contacts, and then isolate and quarantine as necessary. I imagine most of you have heard stories like I have of someone who said, "Oh, I just had a head cold, sinuses, maybe the oncoming of the flu," and then a couple days later they tested positive for COVID. So we really need to be cautious during these times. The third one is really important, that we just share information with our close contacts about what behavior is safe, because you are much more likely to contract the disease from someone you know than someone you don't. So making sure people have the information to make sure that they are aware of what is safe behavior. And then the last one is about the exposure notification app that was launched by the state. So as of Friday, there's a 17% statewide participation in the app. And according to the modeling they've done, at 15% participation, there will be an 8% reduction in transmission and a 6% reduction in deaths. And essentially what this is a way to bolster the contact tracing capability that the state has, because currently the state is capable of doing full contact tracing for 1,200 cases a day. And as you all well know, we have been well over 1,200 cases a day for quite a while. Today we registered 3,700 cases, which is a little bit of a reduction from our peak. But essentially what this app does is you turn on a setting on your iPhone or download it for your Android, and it uses Bluetooth. Connects, it talks virtually with other people that are in your area. And then if someone tests positive, it will notify you that you have been in close contact with someone who tested positive. So it does not use any location data. It's just the phones talking to each other. So the last thing Seth wanted me to talk about was the initiative by Douglas County to find a testing location here in the city. So they approached us middle of last week, and Jeff got his Rolodex out and looked for people that might be interested in sites that might be suitable. So Canvas was interested in doing it. They are going to, the site is going to be a little bit more intricate than the Art Center site. There's going to be some storage containers and office connexes there on site. They are going to begin with accommodating 1,000 vehicles a day, operate 7 days a week from 8 a.m. To 6 p.m. Currently, they are planning for a soft launch this Saturday. And this is a state-funded program that they contracted with through MACO, who does some of the other large testing sites around the state. In conjunction with that, we will suspend the STRIDE testing at the Art Center, and Douglas County will move that testing capability to another location within the county.
Bill, I was writing down, what time a potential soft launch Saturday, what are the hours again?
It's 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Thank you. And when will that be confirmed?
So Douglas County is, I believe we should have an answer by tomorrow or at the very latest Thursday. Their plan was not to do a lot of media hype around it until after they got up and running a little bit.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Bill, what did you say the capacity would be of this site?
The capacity of this site, so they are planning on starting out at 1,000 vehicles a day, but they do have the ability to ramp up if it is required and if the site is suitable for it.
Okay, any other questions for Bill? I know. Bill, what's going to be the new version of scarce items? I have my toilet paper. What is it? Is it going to be small turkeys? What is it that we are going to need now?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Come on.
It's rice. You can't get
rice.
rice.
All right. All right. Well, whoever figures it out first, please let me know. No, Bill, thanks for the ever-changing work. I think we're all a little disheartened by the really short time frame associated with this. And Seth, we're going to have some real conversation about how we disseminate all of this and unravel it to our residents and our business community, because I think people are just overwhelmed by the constant change and while I don't want to lose sight of the hopeful news regarding the vaccine, it still feels like we haven't gotten through the worst of it right now. So Bill, we very much appreciate you digging into the details and helping us unravel I just saw the email with the public health order and I was like, okay, I can't even begin. So looking forward to your summary of it. All right, anybody else have anything for Bill? Okay, thanks. You guys might actually get to eat dinner tonight before our council meeting. So next on our agenda is the consent agenda review, which includes minutes from October 20th, claims for October 13th to November 9th, and our September 2020 treasurer's report. Any questions on consent?
No questions.
None. Okay, great.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So before I let you have this leisurely 38 minutes for dinner, Seth, in addition to unraveling the public health order, I think council is going to probably have some other questions about impacts budget scenarios from the latest round and what that might look like and how we have our conservative projections have accounted for I can only assume is going to be another downturn in sales tax revenues with the closing of the indoor dining options. So Seth, is there anything else that I forgot that we need to cover in study session? Hey, somebody let Seth talk. Come on, he's the city manager. Let him speak.
I think Sarah muted him.
Yeah. No, he's at the office. Seriously. Jay, let Seth talk. Jay Rob. Okay.
Not his fault. My computer locked up there for a second. So no, the answer is no. I don't think there is anything else.
Okay. Okay, guys. Well, let's all try and get back on at least by 10 till, if that's possible. Does that seem reasonable to folks?
Yeah.
Okay, and Jay Rob sent us a different link for our council meeting. So just remind everyone, so we are going to end this one and see you guys later at the official one. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, thanks. We'll see you in a bit. Enjoy dinner.